In the peaceful riverside town of Willowbrook, there lived a merchant named Richard. Everyone in town knew him well. He was wealthy, powerful, and respected by many. But behind the smiles and gold coins was a man consumed by greed. To Richard, money wasn't just important, it was everything. One sunny morning, the marketplace was bustling with activity. Villagers came to buy grains, fruits, and cloth, and as always, Richard's shop stood at the center of it all. He sat inside counting his gold coins with a satisfied smirk. Sarah, his gentle and kind-hearted wife, watched him quietly. "Richard," she said softly, "people are struggling these days. Prices are already high. Maybe you should lower them a little." Richard looked up and laughed coldly. "Struggling? That's not my problem, Sarah. Business is business. If they want my grains, they'll pay what I demand." Her face fell, but she didn't argue further. Outside, villagers left his shop disappointed, whispering among themselves about his growing arrogance. But Richard didn't care. Every coin he earned fed his pride, and every act of greed pushed him further away from the people who once trusted him. That evening, his childhood friend George came to visit. George was a simple farmer, hardworking and honest. "Richard," he said gently, "I've known you since we were boys. People are hungry and times are hard. Please lower your prices. Help them." Richard smirked. "George, this is business. If they can't afford my grains, they should work harder." George sighed and shook his head. "Chasing too much can leave you with nothing, my friend. Be careful." Richard laughed loudly. "Ha! I control this market, George. Nothing can touch me." Days turned into weeks, and Richard's greed only grew. He bought more land, more shops, and filled his hidden storeroom with piles of gold. One evening, his young son David walked into the room where Richard was stacking gold bars. "Father," David asked innocently, "why do you keep so much gold? Aren't we already rich?" Richard smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "Son, wealth is power. The more we collect, the more powerful we become." Sarah, who overheard the conversation, walked in and placed a gentle hand on David's shoulder. "David," she said softly, "remember this. True wealth is not measured by gold, but by the good you do for others." But Richard ignored her words. He believed his empire would last forever. Yet destiny had other plans. That summer, disaster struck. The rains failed, crops dried up, and the entire region fell into a terrible drought. Villagers came to Richard, pleading for help. "Richard, please," one woman begged, holding her hungry child. "Lower the prices. Our children are starving." Richard folded his arms, his face cold and unyielding. "No discounts. Pay the price or leave." Word spread quickly, and soon the villagers began boycotting his shop. His warehouses were full of grains, but no one came to buy them. The food rotted, and his business slowly began to crumble. "Richard," Sarah pleaded one night, "help them now, or you'll lose everything." "Enough, Sarah," he shouted angrily. "I won't give away what's mine." Weeks passed, and Richard's debts grew. In desperation, he invested all his remaining gold into a risky shipping deal, hoping to double his fortune overnight. "Richard," warned Mr. Collins, the respected village elder, "don't gamble everything you have. Greed blinds even the wisest men." Richard smirked confidently. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. But fate was not on his side. His partners betrayed him, the ship sank in a storm, and Richard lost everything: his wealth, his shops, his land. In a single night, the empire he had built with greed collapsed like a house of cards. When George came to see him, Richard sat on the floor of his empty mansion, holding his head in his hands. His storerooms were bare, his coins gone, and his pride shattered. "I warned you, Richard," George said softly. "Greed has no end." Richard looked up, tears filling his eyes. "I had everything, George, and now I have nothing." Sarah came and sat beside him, holding his trembling hand. "True wealth," she whispered, "is kindness, Richard. We forgot that." For the first time, Richard didn't argue. The man who once ruled the marketplace sat in silence, listening to the sound of his own downfall. Months passed, and Richard rebuilt his life slowly, not as a wealthy merchant, but as a humble man. He learned to live simply, to give more than he took, and to value people more than profit. The same villagers who once hated him began to respect him again, not for his gold, but for his compassion. And so the man who once chased endless wealth finally understood the greatest truth of life: when you chase too much, you often end up with nothing. But when you choose kindness, you gain everything that truly matters. The greedy merchant had lost his gold, his power, and his pride. But he had gained something far greater: wisdom.